Welcome to Dark Detox, where we explore the darkest mysteries. Real crimes, disappearances, mysteries, investigations, cold cases.
A single town's tragedy to basically a global psychological condition.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating source material.
Picture a spool of that bright yellow crime scene tape.
Right, the classic police line, do not cross.
Yeah, exactly. We all know what that barrier represents, right? It's a sterile boundary. It basically tells the world, stop, the truth is inside here, and we are protecting it.
Right, it's a quarantine zone for evidence.
Exactly. So usually when an investigation is wrapped up at a location, the forensics team, they take that tape down, they pack up their gear, and the scene is cleared. But imagine driving past a house in Arizona, this is days after the police had packed up, and watching those same officers awkwardly trying to string that yellow tape back up.
Oh, man. Yeah, when that tape goes back up, it's basically a neon sign screaming that the investigation just compromised its own foundation.
Right.
Putting the tape back up doesn't mean, you found something new. It usually means the department realized they missed something critical, and they left the door wide open for days in the meantime.
It's like the real world equivalent of hitting undo on a catastrophic error, but, you can't actually undo a contaminated crime scene.
The damage is completely done.
Yeah. So that jarring image of compromised evidence, that is our starting point. Welcome to the deep dive. We're looking at the deeply frustrating, just tragically botched investigation into the January 31st overnight kidnapping of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie.
Right.
And for those who might not recognize the name right away, she is the mother of U.S. TV presenter Savannah Guthrie.
Yeah, which obviously adds a massive layer of complexity to this.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we're synthesizing a really thick stack of recent reports, forensic expert analyses, and statements from law enforcement.
Right.
And we're trying to figure out how a high-profile kidnapping case could just freeze. I mean, we were talking about a case backed by intense national media attention, $1 million reward, and literally nearly 40,000 tips.
40,000, that is insane.
It is. And yet it has gone entirely cold for 5 months. So we aren't here to just, read a timeline of what happened. We really want to understand the underlying mechanics of why this investigation stalled so spectacularly.
Right, because for anyone listening who wants to understand how complex systems fail under pressure, this is like a masterclass.
Absolutely.
It's just a brutal look at how, high-tech resources and basically infinite funding, they mean absolutely nothing if human error and environmental factors are just working against you from minute one.
Yeah, if the foundation is cracked, the whole house comes down.
Exactly. So to understand why that yellow tape going back up was the fatal blow to this case, we actually have to start with the environment itself, because the ground outside Nancy Guthrie's house was already defeating the police before they even received the 911 call.
Yeah, the geography is a huge player here.
Right, so Nancy Guthrie lived in the Catalina foothills of Tucson, Arizona. Now, I always pictured Tucson as just like standard desert terrain,
Sure, cacti and sand.
Yeah, exactly. But the foothills area operates under a really strict dark sky ordinance. And I didn't realize how intensely that shapes the physical landscape at night.
It completely alters the environment. So the county and the local homeowners associations, they strictly enforce these laws to protect the astronomical research happening at major nearby observatories, like Kitt Peak.
Oh, okay, so it's for the telescopes.
Exactly. To keep the night sky pristine for those researchers, local laws heavily restrict light pollution. So streetlights are virtually non-existent in a lot of these neighborhoods.
Wow.
Yeah, and any exterior lighting on a residential house, it has to be heavily shielded, usually like amber-colored and pointed strictly downward.
So at 2 in the morning, if you step off a porch, you are stepping into just a wall of pitch black.
Utter darkness.
And the geography surrounding these homes is intense too. The foothills are rimmed by 4 mountain ranges, with the Catalinas being the most rugged, and Guthrie's house just sits right at the base of them.
Yeah, and it creates this fascinating, if unintended, paradox, because you have this civic planning designed with the really noble intention of preserving our view of the universe.
Right.
But practically, it plunges a very rugged, really uneven landscape into near total darkness. So you're handing an immense physical advantage to anyone trying to approach a property unseen.
You're stripping away the neighborhood's natural surveillance.
Exactly. It's the perfect cover.
And it clearly worked for whoever took Nancy Guthrie. Because former Arizona law enforcement officer David Smith, he noted something in these reports that completely baffled me.
What was that?
He said someone could look at an aerial map, pull a vehicle into the Guthrie driveway, and completely bypass the home's Ring camera.
Right.
Like, in the modern age of smart home security, how does an intruder just walk around a camera system that detects motion?
Oh, right. They use the arroyos.
The arroyos.
Yes, the Catalina foothills are carved up by these dry water courses.
Yeah.
During monsoon season, these arroyos act as natural drainage rivers.
Okay, that makes sense.
But for the rest of the year, they're basically just deep, dry, sandy trenches that run directly behind people's properties.
Oh, wow. So instead of walking down a sidewalk where, a motion sensor light or a neighbor's security camera might catch you, you just hike up the dry riverbed straight to the target's back door.
Exactly. Smith pointed out that these arroyos essentially function as an off-the-grid transit system. Criminals use them to move undetected through these dark sky neighborhoods all the time.
That is terrifying.
It is. But the real complication for law enforcement is that these trenches are also used constantly by innocent people. Hikers, dog walkers, kids just cutting through the neighborhood to get to a friend's house.
Right, which brings up a glaring question for me. If an intruder is walking through a dry, dusty riverbed, aren't they leaving massive, obvious footprints in the sand? How do police not just follow the tracks right back to the getaway vehicle?
Well, if the intruder were the only person walking there, they totally would. But the forensic evidence in those arroyos is incredibly transitory.
Because of the dog walkers and hikers.
Right. Because of that constant foot traffic from innocent people, combined with the loose desert soil, the arroyo acts almost like a giant Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, that's a great analogy. So a kidnapper walks through at 2 a.m., but by the time the police tape off the area at 10 a.m., the morning wind and a few early bird joggers have already shaken the board clean.
Yep. The tracks just layer over each other until they're an illegible mess. You can't distinguish a suspect's boot from a hiker's shoe. And Smith emphasizes that Tucson's broader geography really severely amplifies this problem.
How so?
Well, the city has a high rate of transient populations, significant drug transit routes, and, it sits relatively close to an international border, so the suspect pool is just enormous.
And the physical path leading to any of those suspects literally blows away in the desert wind before the sun even comes up.
Exactly.
Okay, so with the ground offering absolutely zero physical clues, the investigators were effectively blind. They had to just sit and wait for the kidnappers to initiate contact.
Right, which they did.
Yeah, they did. 2 ransom notes arrived in the days following the abduction, and the Guthrie family has stated they believe these notes are authentic. The first note demands millions of dollars specifically in Bitcoin.
Right, a modern crypto extortion demand. But then the narrative drastically shifts.
Yeah, a second note arrives shortly after, but this one claims that Nancy Guthrie has died, and the writer actually expresses regret for it.
Which is so bizarre, and keep the timing of this in mind too. This second note arrives while Savannah Guthrie is on national television pleading for her mother's safe return.
Right.
The media spotlight on this case was instantaneous, it was global, and it was massive.
But wait, if the perpetrator's goal was to extract millions in Bitcoin, sending a second note expressing regret makes zero financial sense. I mean, you just killed your only leverage. Why not lie? Why not pretend she's alive to get the crypto transfer?
It's a huge question.
Did that massive global media spotlight actually trigger the second note? Did they panic?
Well, the experts analyzing this case are completely split on the psychology and the logistics behind those communications. So private investigator Dan Ribicoff, who has worked kidnapping and extortion cases for decades, he strongly believes the victim's fame drove the kidnappers underground.
Meaning they realized whose mother they took, saw the FBI heat coming, and just panicked.
Exactly. Or the initial abduction went catastrophically wrong. Nancy Guthrie was 84 years old. The physical trauma and psychological terror of an overnight abduction are immense for anyone, let alone someone of that age.
Oh, absolutely.
So she suffered a medical emergency and passed away accidentally during the ordeal. The crime immediately escalates in the eyes of the law from a kidnapping to a felony murder.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a murder charge completely changes the math for the criminals.
Completely. Ribicoff argues that once the victim is deceased, continuing to negotiate a ransom becomes an unacceptable operational risk.
Because of the digital footprint.
Yes. Every encrypted email you send, every digital ping to a crypto wallet, it generates metadata. It generates an IP address or a server bounce that federal authorities can untangle.
Right, they have teams dedicated to exactly that.
Right, so the absolute safest move for the kidnapper at that point is to sever all communication, dump the digital trail, and basically hide the body permanently to avoid that murder charge.
That is a deeply grim scenario. I mean, they realized the spotlight was too hot, the plan failed, and they just slammed the door shut to save themselves.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the experts were split. What is the alternative theory?
So David Smith, a former Tucson officer we talked about earlier, he looks at the timeline entirely differently. He is highly skeptical of the ransom notes' contents in general.
Really?
Yeah, he suggests the notes were a deliberate, calculated smokescreen.
Oh, so like a diversion to buy time while they moved her out of the area?
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Smith's view, the Bitcoin demands and that bizarre subsequent apology, they were designed to keep local and federal investigators hyper-focused on digital forensics and local grid searches in the arroyos.
Right.
Meanwhile, the perpetrators were using that head start to move Guthrie across the nearby border into Mexico.
Which is a whole other nightmare because U.S. law enforcement faces massive jurisdictional hurdles there. I mean, you can't just send a Tucson SWAT team across the border to kick down doors.
No, absolutely not. Operating in a foreign country requires complex international cooperation, State Department clearance, and working with foreign agencies, all of which drastically slows down the pursuit.
Yeah, the red tape is wild.
It is.
Oh.
But both of these theories, whether the perpetrators panicked and went totally dark, or they carefully orchestrated an international border crossing, they point to a highly evasive adversary.
Right.
I mean, they knew how to exploit the dark terrain, they bypassed the cameras, and they used digital extortion to control the narrative.
And when you are up against that level of sophistication, the police response has to be absolutely flawless. You need local detectives, state police, and federal agents operating as a single, well-oiled machine from the moment the 911 call drops.
You do. But unfortunately, that is not what happened here.
No. Instead of a unified front, the sources detail this massive, incredibly frustrating turf war between the agencies.
Yeah, it is honestly one of the most baffling aspects of this entire timeline, especially given the stakes. FBI Director Kash Patel gave an interview on a podcast in May, publicly claiming that the FBI was kept out of the investigation for the first 4 days.
4 days? That is, I mean, in any missing persons case, let alone an elderly kidnapping, the first 48 hours are the entire ballgame.
Exactly.
If you haven't found them in 48 hours, the statistical probability of a safe recovery just plummets. Why would they keep the FBI out?
Well, Patel went further into it. He alleged that the local authorities, specifically the Pima County Sheriff's Department, actively rebuffed the FBI's offers to help.
You're kidding.
According to Patel, the FBI offered to fly critical DNA evidence to their elite laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. But the local officials inexplicably chose to send the evidence to a private lab in Florida instead.
I just don't understand that. Why on earth would a local sheriff turn down the FBI's behavioral analysis unit and the Quantico lab? That's literally the best in the world.
Well, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos pushed back on this heavily. He took to X, formerly Twitter, to dispute Patel's claims entirely. He stated that an FBI liaison was actually on site from night one.
Okay, so a totally conflicting account.
Right. And Nanos defended his department's timeline, stating that the decisions regarding where to send evidence were based strictly on operational needs at the time.
Ah, operational needs.
Yeah. He framed it as a local jurisdiction properly handling its own case and utilizing federal resources only as they fit into the local strategy.
It feels like two surgeons arguing over who gets to hold the scalpel while the patient is just bleeding out on the table.
That's a very accurate way to picture it.
I mean, whether the FBI was actually locked out or the sheriff was just firmly managing his own scene, how does this kind of friction actually impact the boots-on-the-ground search?
Well, think about the mechanics of a massive manhunt. When you have jurisdictional friction, information gets siloed almost immediately.
Meaning they aren't sharing data.
Exactly. Let's say a local deputy gets a tip from a neighbor about a suspicious vehicle parked near an arroyo. But because the agencies aren't seamlessly integrated, that tip doesn't immediately reach the federal agents who are, say, analyzing border traffic cameras.
Oh, I see. So the dots don't get connected until it's way too late.
Right.
The local guy has the car description, the federal guy has the camera footage, but they just aren't talking to each other.
Exactly. Theories aren't stress tested by different teams, resources are duplicated, or just wasted entirely. While the leadership is exchanging emails about which laboratory is processing the DNA swabs, the physical trail out in the desert is literally blowing away in the wind.
That was so frustrating.
It is. The sheer existence of that bureaucratic friction fundamentally paralyzes the momentum of the case.
Yeah, that bureaucratic paralysis is infuriating to read about. But the handling of the evidence itself, specifically Ground Zero, the Guthrie house, is where this investigation arguably suffered its most fatal self-inflicted wound.
Yeah, this is the part that is really hard to comprehend.
Let's go back to that jarring image from the very beginning, the yellow crime scene tape going back up. So Sheriff Nanos officially declared the crime scene done on February 4th, but the timeline shows he'd actually turned the house back over to the family the day before, on February 3rd.
Right. And then, inexplicably, law enforcement went back to the house and strung the crime scene tape back up for further processing.
Which is just crazy.
Joseph Giacalone, who's a retired NYPD sergeant and literally authored textbooks on criminal investigations, he was deeply critical of this decision.
I bet.
He stated unequivocally that there was absolutely no reason to release that scene so early.
Yeah, Giacalone argued the entire property should have been locked down for weeks if necessary. Nobody but forensic technicians in protective suits should have been allowed inside.
Because the moment you let non-law enforcement personnel back into a crime scene, you severely damage your ability to prosecute the case. This introduces the legal concept of chain of custody.
Which, sounds like a boring paperwork issue, but it's actually the linchpin of a trial. Let's play this out mechanically.
Okay.
Say the police get a massive break tomorrow. They find the vehicle, they arrest the kidnapper. Doesn't that gap that single day where the family had access to the house before the tape went back up, doesn't that give a defense attorney everything they need to blow up the case in court?
Oh, it is a defense attorney's dream scenario.
Really?
Absolutely. Because chain of custody isn't just a sign-in sheet, It is a sterile, unbroken timeline. It proves to a jury that a piece of evidence was collected at the scene, secured, analyzed, and brought into the courtroom without any opportunity for tampering or contamination.
Right, it has to be pristine.
Exactly. When you release the scene to the family, you introduce noise.
Noise. Like family members walking through the hallway to grab clothes for a hotel stay.
Yes. Or a professional cleaner might come in to scrub the floors. The family dog tracks dirt from the arroyo into the kitchen.
Right.
You are importing hundreds of new, completely irrelevant data points. So when law enforcement puts the tape back up on February 4th, and let's say subsequently finds a new hair follicle or a scuff mark on the wall or a latent fingerprint, the defense attorney will simply point to that gap in the timeline.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, they will ask the prosecution's forensic tech on the stand, can you definitively prove my client left that fingerprint during the kidnapping? Or could it have been left by a repairman who came in after you released the scene?
And the prosecutor has to admit under oath that they don't know for sure.
Right. And the kicker is, the defense doesn't have to prove the repairman left the print.
They just have to cast the doubt.
Exactly. They only have to prove the police cannot prove the kidnapper left it. Mishandling the scene introduces reasonable doubt directly into the physical space.
Wow.
It doesn't matter if you have the right guy. If the evidence is contaminated, a jury cannot legally convict.
That is just brutal. Now, Sheriff Nanos did eventually address this catastrophic error. During a press conference, he admitted, quote, "I probably could have held off on that," referring to releasing the house. He claimed they thought they had a complete picture of the evidence at the time.
Yeah, well, an admission of a misstep is one thing, but it doesn't miraculously uncontaminate the evidence.
No, it definitely doesn't.
And this specific misstep just poured gasoline on an already really tense relationship between the sheriff and the public. I mean, his leadership was facing intense scrutiny even before Nancy Guthrie was taken.
Yeah, the sources highlighted a really revealing interaction regarding that pressure. Local reporters started digging into his background, asking about written reprimands he received years ago when he worked in El Paso.
Right.
And his response was remarkably hostile. He told a reporter, "That's your urgent request. You sure you don't want to go back to my high school and ask why I got swats from the principal? Good luck with your hit piece."
Man, that kind of rhetoric is highly damaging during an active high-stakes crisis.
It really is.
When an investigation is publicly floundering, the community needs the person in charge to project stability, right? Competence and accountability. Deflecting valid journalistic questions about professional history with sarcasm about high school discipline, it completely erodes that trust.
It projects massive defensiveness instead of control.
Exactly.
And the local government certainly noticed the unraveling situation. The Pima County Board of Supervisors actually demanded a formal explanation from the sheriff regarding his handling of both the department and the specific case.
Yeah, they ultimately voted not to remove him from his position, but the damage to his credibility was done.
Oh, for sure.
Supervisor Rex Scott stated very bluntly that the sheriff needed to repair a severe deficit of public trust. You simply cannot successfully police a community that doesn't trust your basic competence to handle a crime scene.
No, you can't. So we are basically looking at a compounding cascade of failures here.
Yeah, a perfect storm.
You have the rugged, heavily shadowed Catalina terrain acting as a natural accomplice for the intruders. You have a massive media spotlight that likely panicked the perpetrators, driving them entirely into the dark. You have a baffling, ego-driven feud between the local sheriff and the FBI, wasting the most critical hours of the search.
Right.
And then you have a compromised primary crime scene that could legally jeopardize any future conviction.
It serves as a grim case study for law enforcement everywhere. I mean, cutting-edge technology, vast wealth, and national attention are essentially useless if the foundational elements of communication and basic procedural discipline collapse.
It's just so tragic.
It is. The Guthrie family put up a $1 million reward. The department received close to 40,000 tips. Savannah Guthrie leveraged a huge national television platform to beg for answers.
But because the groundwork was fundamentally compromised, because the local and federal agencies couldn't align and the crime scene tape came down way too early, all of that leverage has yielded absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
5 months later, the family is still trapped in this agonizing limbo, just waiting for a break in the case.
Yeah. It's a sobering look at how fragile the justice system becomes when it is confronted with both severe environmental challenges and internal bureaucratic friction.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think back to the very beginning of our conversation, to those dark sky ordinances in the Catalina foothills.
Right, the laws mandating that lights must be heavily shielded and face strictly downward.
Yeah, to protect the observatories.
It is a beautiful, really noble concept at its core. A community legislating to preserve its view of the cosmos, ensuring the stars remain visible for scientific discovery and human wonder.
It really is beautiful, but it raises a deeply unsettling question. When a society focuses so intently on preserving one kind of beauty and looking up toward the stars, what kind of darkness are they inadvertently inviting into their own backyards?
Oof, it is a haunting trade-off.
It really is. Well, thank you for joining us as we unpack the layers of this complex and tragic case. Stay curious, keep critically questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.